It's 2 in the afternoon on Thursday, August 21st here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Na Hyun-kyung. And these are the stories we're following at this hour. The standoff persists between family members of the victims of April's ferry sinking and Parliament. The families accuse the government of trying to cover up what happened in April. The United States says it tried to rescue American hostages in Syria earlier in the summer, but failed. U.S. President Barack Obama says Washington will be relentless in the fight against Islamic militants. And the so-called Ice Bucket Challenge goes viral. It has made its way to Korea as well, as many celebrities take part to spread the spirit of donation. And going back to the National Assembly, the bereaved families of April's ferry sinking are calling on lawmakers to renegotiate the specifics of a bill that would set up investigation into the ferry accident. The presidential office of Cheong Wa Dae has stepped aside, saying it's not the president's place to meddle. Here's our National Assembly correspondent Ji Myung-kil with more.
Bereaved families of April's ferry sinking are calling on lawmakers to overhaul a bipartisan deal aimed at uncovering the truth into the disaster, accusing the government of trying to cover up.
Are you siding with the enemy? The fact the opposition party is telling us to concede to the terms they negotiated with the Saenuri Party's floor leader makes it sound as if we should walk hand in hand with the enemy. That is not possible.
The families held a meeting late on Wednesday to confirm their opposition to the compromised Sewol-ho ferry bill. Rival party floor leaders had ironed out a deal on Tuesday that will make the Saenuri Party receive approval from the main opposition party and the victims' families before nominating 2 committee members, ending weeks of bipartisan bickering over the special bill. But families of more than 300 people killed in the ferry sinking call on the opposition party to try again to seek more concessions from the ruling party, saying the latest version of the bill would not guarantee a sufficiently thorough probe into the disaster as it lacks investigative and prosecutorial powers. The ruling party said further negotiations were out of the question and regretted the family's rejection of the compromise. Meanwhile, the opposition party had tried to persuade the families to support the bill, but failed to do so. The current political deadlock is preventing the passage of thousands of other bills as opposition lawmakers refuse to hold a plenary session unless the Sewol-ho ferry bill is passed first. Some key pending legislation includes amendments to existing safety regulations and a series of economic bills. Both parties are hoping to agree on creating some kind of consensus with the families within this month. The National Assembly's next extraordinary session begins this Friday. Ji Myung-kil, Arirang News.
The entire world is appalled, says U.S. President Barack Obama, over the beheading of American journalist James Foley by Islamic State militants. The Pentagon says a secret mission was carried out in Syria earlier this summer aimed at freeing American hostages, including Mr. Foley. Connie Lee reports.
A spokesperson for the Pentagon has revealed that the United States attempted a rescue operation in Syria earlier this summer, not only to free U.S. journalist James Foley, but also other American hostages being held in Syria by Islamic State militants. It was a secret, major rescue operation launched by U.S. Special Forces against the Islamic State. The Pentagon statement on Wednesday said the operation involved air and ground components, but did not succeed because the hostages were not present at the targeted location. This new information came as the U.S. launched a wave of new airstrikes against Islamic State targets in Iraq. On the same day, President Barack Obama, in a televised statement, said the U.S. will be relentless in the fight against the militant group following the brutal murder of Mr. Foley. President Obama, who said he was heartbroken over the incident, said the U.S. will do what's necessary to see that justice is done. He also compared the militant group to cancer whose spread must be stopped. The president's message came less than a day after the militants released a video of the American journalist being beheaded. The Islamic State is believed to be holding several American hostages, including journalist Steven Sotloff. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
The U.S. Navy has unveiled what's called its navigation plan for the next few years, and it says Washington plans to up its fleet presence in the Middle East by increasing the number of ships from 30 to 40 by the year 2019. As for Asia, the policy is in line with the U.S. pivot to Asia. Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Jonathan Greenert has called for an expansion of the U.S. fleet in the Asia-Pacific from 50 to 65 ships over the same period. The document covers fiscal years 2015 through 2019 and serves as a guide to the top Navy officers' budget priorities. The U.S. Treasury's point man on North Korea sanctions is currently in Seoul for talks with senior diplomats of South Korea. Now, officials say David Cohen and Seoul's top nuclear envoy Hwang Jun-guk and Lee Kyung-soo, the deputy minister for political affairs, reviewed the current status of economic sanctions against Pyongyang by the international community and discussed ways to work with countries like China on the issue. Cohen is also said to have requested Seoul's cooperation in sanctions against Russia, citing the Ukraine crisis and the recent shooting down of a Malaysian passenger jet. In the year 2012, for Korea was at its record high.
All of the day's important events close to home and around the world. Join Na Hyun-kyung live from Seoul.
Shopping market thinks the true meaning of creation shines through. Economic indicators coming out from different parts of the world seem to be pointing to a global economic downturn. Geopolitical concerns in a variety of hotspots are adding to apprehensions, making it difficult for the export-driven Korean economy to gain much momentum. Our Song Ji-sun has this next report.
Latest reports by the Korean government and economic research institutes reveal that most of the world's largest economies are showing significant downside risks that could drag on Korean and emerging economies as well. The Eurozone, which accounts for 17% of the global economy, failed to grow at all in the second quarter from the first quarter. The gain in consumer prices in the Eurozone also marked the lowest level in nearly 5 years, at a mere 0.4%. Both indicators show a typical double-dip phenomenon, meaning the European economy showed weak signs of recovery, then fell back to a slump. Japan's stagnant economy is expected to remain in the doldrums for another few years, with exports not rebounding enough to bolster its economy and domestic spending continuing to shrink. Japan's economy contracted 6.8% in real terms in the second quarter, the lowest level seen since the devastating earthquake and tsunami 3 years ago. Citing officials, Bloomberg reported that Japan's central bank could slash its 2014 growth outlook to less than 1%, with many private economists predicting growth rate of less than 0.5%. The Japanese central bank has already revised down its growth forecast for this year 3 times. The U.S. is the only bright spot, with its GDP logging a 4% growth in the second quarter. But its momentum can largely be affected by the slowing demand from the Eurozone and a widely expected decision by the U.S. Federal Reserve to raise its benchmark interest rate in the coming month. Crises in Ukraine, Iraq, and Gaza also have the potential to derail the global economic recovery. That could spell a tough road ahead for the Korean economy, which relies heavily on exports. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
But there's apparently one effect that's going strong against the current. The so-called Pope Francis effect may have extended to the Pope Mobile. Sales of Kia Motors' Soul model shot up last week after Pope Francis used the compact car to get around during his trip to Korea. The company says an average of 32 cars were sold per day in the country right before the Pope arrived until shortly after he left. That's up 63% compared to the same period last month. Now, Kia forecasts global sales of the Soul model to spike as well in the months to come. Korean battery maker LG Chem has won a deal worth hundreds of millions of dollars from Audi to supply batteries for their plug-in hybrid and micro-hybrid electric vehicles. LG Chem declined to give out details, but what they did say was that it expects the deal to boost orders from Audi's parent company Volkswagen in the future. The Korean firm has already secured 20 global customers, including General Motors and Ford, and supplied batteries for 320,000 electric vehicles since it began production in 2009. Now, mathematics can be a scary subject for some. It was once considered a reserve of the academic world, but Korean researchers are trying to let the future generations know that math theorems are also being applied in everyday gadgets and devices. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
The application of math theorems provides an important foundation for the advancement of modern technology. 3D printers, one of the most promising inventions of the 21st century, are based on a calculus theory known as Fubini's theorem. Introduced by Guido Fubini in the early 20th century, it states that in order to materialize an object with n-level dimensions, one can do so by piling up the matter of n-1 dimensions.
If it wasn't for Fubini's theorem, it would not have been possible to intricately pile layer upon layer to produce a three-dimensional object. The rudimentary alternative is to take a large object and sharpen it, but this method cannot produce the sophisticated designs like those made by 3D printers.
Due to its growing importance, Korea has increasingly tried to find ways to nourish local mathematicians, and has been making significant progress in the field over the past 30 years. Korea ranked first in the International Mathematical Olympiads in 2012 and has maintained a top 7 ranking since. A number of math dissertations from Korea have been published in academic journals overseas, putting it at 11th in the world. However, Park Kyung-ju, professor at Pohang University of Science and Technology, says there's still a long way to go in terms of promoting the quality of research. He's emphasizing the need to create a conducive environment for local mathematicians.
So they tend to do research whose results are kind of predictable, or they know for sure that they can solve. Instead of actually challenging the problems that can actually make impacts. The problem is the whole research infrastructure, including grants opportunities, promotes that mindset.
The winners of this year's Fields Medals, which are among the most prestigious awards in mathematics, underscore the importance of quality education in nurturing young mathematicians so that they can experience and appreciate the beauty of the subject and stay the course. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, in the past, language and cultural barriers made Asians hesitate to leave their homelands and move to another Asian country for work and perhaps a better life. But that trend is apparently changing. Our Kim Hyun-bin explains why.
The number of people moving from one Asian country to another has risen dramatically over the last 10 years. According to the UN 2013 International Migration Report, released on Wednesday, roughly 20 million Asians migrated within the continent last year. Many are leaving their homelands in search of work, others because of marriage. As countries in Northeast Asia, like Korea and Japan, suffer from the effect of low birth rates, a labor gap has emerged. It's being filled more and more by cheap labor from South Asia and Southeast Asia. Some 2 million Southeast Asians and South Asians moved to Northeast Asia last year for work or international marriage last year. That's nearly double the total from 2000. And looking at Vietnam alone, over 17,000 Vietnamese migrated to Korea in 2000. By 2013, the figure has soared to 120,000. While Northeast Asia has seen an influx of immigrants, its numbers pale in comparison to West Asia. Some 13.5 million people migrated from South Asia to the west of the continent last year. They're making the move for similar reasons. Middle Eastern countries may be rich in oil, but they also have relatively small populations, requiring them to look outside their borders for hard labor. That's opened the employment door for people from India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, who have seized the opportunity. The number of Southeast Asians moving to the Middle East for work has also risen, with the number last year falling about 2.8 million. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Taking the ice bucket challenge may be the next thing on your bucket list, as videos of celebrities and world leaders tipping ice-cold water over themselves are going viral on the internet, and the challenge has made its way into Korea as well. Our Kwon So-ah tells us what the cause is for.
Charity can be so much fun. The Ice Bucket Challenge is going viral around the world. All you have to do is dump a bucket of ice water over your head or let others do it for you within 24 hours after being nominated, or donate $100 to the ALS Association. The association helps people suffering from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or Lou Gehrig's disease. Once you have been nominated and drenched yourself, it's your turn to choose 3 other people. And it's the more fun when the most well-known people in the world take the challenge.
To you all who challenged me, I do not think it's presidential for me to be splashed with ice water, so I'm simply going to write you a check.
Or not.
Yesterday was Bill's birthday, and my gift to Bill is a bucket of cold water.
Now I nominate Ellen, Barack Obama.
The internet is full of clips of people like Tom Cruise, Lady Gaga, and others not only showing their down-to-earth side, but tipping ice-cold water over themselves and donating to a great cause. The challenge has also made its way to Korea. Actor Jo In-sung grabbed the headlines when he nominated a baseball player of the same name. Former pro basketball player Park Seung-il, who has been battling with Lou Gehrig's disease, took the challenge in his own way with snow spray, which touched many people. Although there is some criticism that the challenge makes light of such a serious illness, it has fulfilled its main purpose of raising awareness and tens of millions of dollars. According to the ALS Association, donations have rocketed to $31.5 million in less than a month, compared to the under $2 million raised over the same period last year. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
French film director Luc Besson is back in the spotlight with his latest movie, Lucy. The film will feature stars like Scarlett Johansson, Morgan Freeman, and Korean actor Chem Audi. Now, Besson was in Seoul on Wednesday to promote his latest work. Our Shin Se-min takes us to the scene.
Manipulating time and controlling people. According to Luc Besson's latest film, Lucy, if humans were able to use 100% of their cerebral cognitive powers, they'd all have such super abilities. The movie stars Scarlett Johansson as a character who accidentally gains superpowers from a brain-enhancing drug and lays revenge on the dealer who sets her up, played by Korea's own Chem Audi. Besson's twisted plot was inspired by the old myth that human beings use only 10% of their brain power, an idea that's impacted the director.
As an adventurer, I always challenge and experience all things myself, and I have personally become more picky as an audience member over the age of 50. I've been working to make a solid film that contains both action and a thrilling psychological element, and Lucy is it.
Besson is known worldwide, but this film marks the first Hollywood debut for Chem Audi, and many media outlets have applauded his performance, even saying that he saves the film. While promoting the movie, Che said it was an honor to work with such a renowned director like Besson, adding that he learned a lot from the experience.
Already garnering box office earnings of over $130 million worldwide, this psychological action thriller is expected to hit the Korean theaters on September 4th. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Right, September 4th it is. Now, sticking with arts and culture, let's shift over to another item. Our Im Hyun-hee joins us with an art exhibition that combines the historical with the contemporary. So, Hyun-hee, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Right. So today the exhibition is about Cheong, who is a very important historical figure here in Korea. Right.
And
so
he's not just famous in Korea, though. He's also well known in China.
Right, exactly. So he is well known in China too. And in fact, while I was at the exhibition, the curator told me that the Chinese president did give President Park Geun-hye a original work by Cheong. And so to see how today's world views this 19th century, or this 9th century figure, take a look at this next report.
A historical figure from the Shilla dynasty, sometimes referred to as the Lone Cloud. Cheong is regarded as one of Korea's cultural heroes. As a scholar, writer, and spiritual sage, the story of Cheong is a colorful one, and it's illustrated by the many artists in this exhibition. An exhibition that uses a blend of the traditional and the contemporary to revive this ancient character.
This exhibition features 40 contemporary artists and around 140 various portrayals of Cheong.
Cheong was born in the year 857 in a unified Shilla dynasty. And at the young age of 12, he was sent to China to study. He soared through the school rankings and even passed the highest of China's civil service exams, later serving as a local government official. He was recognized through China for his scholarly achievements and mastery of words. And upon his return to Korea, he was eager to spark reform in the now crumbling Shilla dynasty. But his efforts were futile, so he began wandering the country and eventually retreated into the mountains, where some records claim he built a chair amongst the trees and used history books as pillows. His life is reimagined through these contemporary works of art. Here, a pre-mountain Che is painted in red, juxtaposed against the more disheveled version of Che after years in the forest. It's in his solitude where he composed many poems and meditated on the harmony of Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. But it's the end of his story that has created the most mystery and intrigue. It's said that Che just slipped into the forest and never was seen again.
This piece is by artist Hwang Jae-hyung, and it depicts the mystery behind the disappearance of Cheong. It's said that only 2 shoes were left at the edge of the forest by the Hainsa temple, so some people believe he reached spiritual immortality, but nobody truly knows exactly what happened in the end.
Whether it be a painting or a statue, the various artists here have shown the rippling effects of Che and his teachings, ideas and beliefs that have trickled through over 1,000 years of history.
So it's a good way to get to know Cheong better in a way. And you said there's also an activity for people to get involved in the exhibition.
Right. So for those looking for a more comprehensive, experience, you can go there every Saturday at 5 p.m. They are offering, they call it a performance, and so they actually have a room set aside with a video of a dancer that you can follow along with. They offer tea there, along with a calligraphy artist and a kayagum performer on the side, which is a traditional Korean instrument. So you can go there and dance to the music and sip tea, a very relaxing way to spend, your Saturday afternoon for those interested.
Right. I mean, it sounds like a good way for the public to get to know older historical characters better.
Right. So actually, this event is sponsored by the Yesudu Jeonnam, or Seoul Art Center, and so they did say they want to make it a point to bring out these historical figures that are not as known of, as common here, and so they want to make more exhibitions like this one and bring characters like Cheong to the forefront and really bring out this history of Korea's culture, of Korea's past, in this way that we today as an audience can comprehend and are interested in.
And for our future generations to learn more about their ancestors as well.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much, Hyun-hee, for your report today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. See you next week.
Good afternoon, I'm Michelle Park here with the latest weather forecast. It's currently pouring down rain over in the central region and Gangwon-do province. Now, heavy rain advisories are in effect as well in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province with chances of thunder and lightning. Now, most of the rain from the south should clear this afternoon, and although it will continue until tomorrow midnight in the upper regions. Now, the central region can expect a total of 80 or possibly higher at up to 120 millimeters of rain over that time. So for those of you on the roads, please be extra careful. Now, besides the rainy weather, we can expect similar temperature ranges to yesterday. Now, however, the level of the humidity is pretty high as well. Now, going over to our temperature readings, Seoul will top out this afternoon at 24 degrees. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will both top to 27 degrees. Now moving over to other regions, Jeju then tops over to 27 as well. Dokdo hits 23, Maokbang, Gyeongang tops out to 22. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park, and back to you, Hyungyang.
All right, thank you, Michelle. That's all we have for you now. Our next newscast is at 4 p.m. Korea time. I'll see you then.